Welcome to the Haunted Hour Podcast. In this episode, I sit down with Russ, the Mindful Mortician, who makes videos on Instagram documenting his experiences as a mortician. So we talk about the paranormal, some of his experiences, and so much more. So let's get right into the episode. Really excited to have you here, Russ. You're the Mindful Mortician. I know you from Instagram, and we've had conversations about dreams. And I've followed your videos that you're putting out there, which are really touching. They're beautiful. And then now we've just been talking, and I find out that you're into the paranormal and Bigfoot and stuff like that. So now I'm like, I have a whole other line of questioning I want to go over.
I would love
But
to.
first, for anybody who hasn't seen your videos yet, can you tell us how you kind of got started working in this field, and then how that brought you to making these videos?
Yeah, sure. So I've always wanted to do this, and it took a long time to get to that point. My brother-in-law tragically passed. He was a 20-year veteran, retired Green Beret Special Forces, amazing guy, 6 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, did some snipering. I mean, really awesome guy. Retires, comes home, and gets killed on a motorcycle. And
Oh,
uh, and this is my wife's older brother, and he was kind of the glue of that side of the family. And he and I we didn't really agree on a lot of things, but he was the guy that I had the most kind, beautiful conversations with, and there's never a bad word, there was never a bad feeling in those conversations. Just it was
cool. Okay.
yeah, sorry. So there were some issues with the funeral, and it was very large at a national cemetery funeral in the Midwest, and I just sat there thinking this can't be right. The funeral director, um, in my opinion, and I should say humble opinion, although it might not be, things that I saw that even as a layman who's never even heard of funeral directing as a career, I've thought about it but never did it. I saw some things that I just didn't like, and I turned to my wife, and she turned to me, and she goes, "Yep, it's time."
Oh,
And so I called a funeral home near me. I had no idea about licensing or school or anything. And I just talked to someone. I said, "What does it take to be a funeral director?" And this person picked up, and she like me was on a second career path. She'd been an intern for 4 years and was about to be licensed. And I call her
oh,
my angel, and I still talk to her. I don't work for that company anymore, but she just told me everything, talked to me for an hour, and in 2 days I was interviewing. In 2 weeks I was a removal person, and I
wow.
remember having a tour of the funeral home, and they opened the embalming room. I'd never seen a dead body, and there's 6 people laying on embalming
Wow.
tables. And then
Yeah.
to see the climate controlled environment where we keep decedents was rough for me. I went home and had to think about it for a while,
Yeah.
and that's that. But how this video thing started that day, my first removal, I was being trained. And my first removal was a 14-year-old who had taken his own life, died from
Oh,
suicide. And I had to go to the coroner office, and I couldn't look. I didn't want to see his face, but I saw his ankle, and I put on a like a hospital ankle bracelet, and that was tough. And my therapist, who I just started at that time, because everyone in this field should have one, uh,
yeah.
he said, "Why don't you start journaling?" And I said, "No, I hate that. I like writing, but not journal writing." So I started recording the videos, and I thought, I'll just start an Instagram, not even thinking about why. It's kind of like something is leading me to do it. And
Right.
so, yeah, I recorded. If you scroll to the bottom of my profile, there's day one. Actually, it's day two technically, but day one is
Oh,
right there. Yeah.
oh, wow.
So that's how
Yeah.
the video started. That's kind of when I was 13, my high school or my junior high thought it would be a good idea to take kids to a funeral home on a field trip. Ridiculous. And we went to an
Oh,
embalming room, and there
oh
were
my
10 of
God.
us, and there was nobody in there, but I remember the distinct smell of cherry and pine. And And all my friends ran screaming out the door, and I was so fascinated, Dee Dee. I just looked and went, "This is wild. I got to learn more." And my favorite James
Wow.
Bond movie is Diamonds Are Forever, and there's a cool funeral home in there. So I've always been drawn to it. But
Yeah,
so it kind
interesting.
of worked its way through, and in a way, I wish it hadn't. I lost a family member, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of how the journey started with the videos and everything too.
Yeah, it seems like it was kind of always there. You just needed that moment that kind of was your aha moment where you needed
It's true. It's
to do
true.
it. Because that is, I had a family member that was a mortician, and it was a really hard career for him. He only lasted a year,
That's
and
pretty
it caused
typical.
a
It's a
lot of
revolving
depression.
door. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a revolving door. There's a lot of alcoholism. There's a lot of depression. I haven't had to work through that, and luckily, I don't think I've had to work through alcoholism. I'll have one or two every other night or so. But that's just I've always been doing that.
Right. Yeah.
Unfortunately, my
That's nothing.
favorite my favorite brewery is on my way home. How am I not supposed to stop? So, but no, it's that's not an issue for me. Um, but it's a revolving door industry, and that's not just within the funeral directing side. That's within the removal side. That's within the family services who work on cemetery,
Yeah.
selling cemetery plots. Yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine. When I was in cosmetology school, I had thought about like one of the things they bring up is doing makeup like in morgues and stuff. And so I had written a couple, and they didn't respond to me. But like looking back, I think that would have been very difficult for me because I really like I can't even watch like a movie and not like
Mm,
take it in deeply. So I think
yeah.
that you have to be able to have really good balance,
Yes.
and not be too extreme with things. So, good for you that, because we need people who are able to cope with this and do this because what's everybody going to do?
Well,
Um,
it's difficult, and I don't sit here, Dee Dee, and toot my own horn, but I tell people, uh, when you find where you belong in this world, and your career is more of a mission, um,
yeah.
that's a very unique thing. And I'm thankful every day that I do what I do. I am able to leave it at work. I come home, I hug my kids. I've got three teenage girls, so you can imagine what my house is like. Um, and two of them are okay with what I do, and another one's not. Bless her heart, because their god brother died tragically about 3 months after I became an intern.
Oh,
And my best friend's son, and so I had to fly down to where they were and help them through and talk them through. And I ended up kind of funeral directing that uh, his service. It was horrible. This was a guy that called me Uncle Russ, and I miss Dylan every day, and I see signs of him every
yeah.
day. And so yeah, one of them's okay, one of them's not, or the other two are. One of them's not really okay. The other two are okay with what I do, and it is though. You find that mission in your life, and I'm really privileged to be here to do what I do.
Yeah. So then that kind of brings me to the fact that you were talking about the paranormal. So now it may or may not bother them for several reasons, but do they ever worry that maybe a spirit would come home with you? Have you ever thought about that?
I have, but I find that how we carry ourselves m brings and attracts different types of auras and different types of energies, if you will. Because I do believe in that. I do believe that we are all energy, and regardless if you want to go down a religious or non-religious route, or spiritualistic, if you will. But no, I haven't really felt uh, anything coming home with me. My youngest daughter and I are twins when it comes to that. We're very much empathetic, and she's definitely an empath, and so she was struggling in our house, and we did some white sage in the house, and she hasn't had an issue since then. Um, and so I don't think I haven't been around anything that scares me. I haven't been around anything that feels evil to me. My last funeral home when I left, there were a number of reasons I left, but I felt that there was a lack of not a lack of respect, but I guess you could say a lack of, um, boy, I don't know what the word is, honor, honoring our deceased, our loved ones.
Oh,
And so there
yeah.
was an aura about that funeral home that just did not feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And where I am now, it's a much bigger place. It's a beautiful place. most, if not all, the people that work here are, I believe, are here for the right reasons. And it's just, I don't feel that I would bring anything home with me. And if I have, well, I don't know. I figure my black lab would let me know.
Yeah,
Mm.
they have a way of letting you know.
He knows what
So,
I do, by the way. He's very aware of what I do. And first
oh,
day I came home
interesting.
on the job, he looked at me and he sniffed me and he knew.
Yeah.
And it took him about a year, and now he didn't stop cuddling. He's my boy, but he it took a while, and now he kind of knows. Well, Dad's home is going to smell different, you know.
Huh. That's
Yeah,
interesting. I never even considered that about animals, that
yeah.
they would be able to pick up those smells that, you think that you wouldn't think there is any. Oh my God.
Well, no, there
I
are
saw you.
definitely. Ask anybody who works in a funeral home and goes in the back of the house. There are definitely smells. Yes,
Huh.
definitely. Yeah,
Wow.
the human body is a machine. Once we die, our body goes to work, and it starts doing things, and it starts, decomposition kicks in like that. Your body just starts to, well, I should say kicks in, but the body's starting to process to get into that. So there's definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely that bit to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I totally lost track of what I was going to say. So
Sorry, it's my
that's
fault.
okay. No, I had like two thoughts at once, but I noticed you looked back a minute ago, and
Oh.
you had mentioned before that this place.
Yeah.
What was the story behind this chapel? And
So this chapel was built over 100 years ago, and about 60 years after it was built, 70 years after it was built, a gentleman was very upset, and so he set it on fire and burnt it down. We were able to keep the blueprints and rebuild it about 50 years ago, and it's beautiful. You can see behind me. I just love it.
yeah.
And actually, behind me, if you look back here, this was actually a retort. So you would have a service here, and you see all the pews and everything, and
Oh.
then push the person into the retort to be cremated. It's not
Oh.
now that's an AV room. It's where we keep
Yeah.
all our AV equipment. But yeah, so very different style, but also keeping in the traditions of traditional funerals. And then we have a couple others that are not quite as much, but um, I don't know. People have said that there's something in here. I haven't felt anything, but I had when I walked in about 15 minutes ago to turn the lights on because I'm alone in here, and this is deep back in the cemetery, so I'm pretty much out here. Um,
Oh.
I walked through some coldness, and then I did just hear something, but I think it was probably the heat coming on, so I'm sure I'm fine.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't, I'm sure I'm fine anyway. If there is an
Yeah.
energy here, they know that I'm here for good reasons.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Yeah. That's I didn't even realize it was in the middle of a cemetery. That's really cool.
oh yeah, yeah, I'm right smack dab in the middle. Yeah.
So, do you ever do paranormal investigations? Have you been on any?
No, I did before I started this. My daughter and I went to the most haunted cemetery in the Pacific Northwest, and it's an old miners' cemetery, and they say you could see the blue lights of the miners and everything, and we did see a blue light, and we
Wow.
also saw a flag being lit up by a light. And I went over, and there was no light source on the ground, and one of the flags was waving while the others next to it were still. So I know
Wow.
that's a thing. You know, I it's funny because people, I think, come into this line of work or they come into these types of settings and they assume there's going to be paranormal activity. They assume that there's
Right.
going to be something. I don't think that's the case all the time. It's just peace. For me, this feels like peace. Maybe that is paranormal activity. Maybe that is something coming over me that feels peaceful. I don't know. I literally
Yeah.
don't know. That's why it's called paranormal, not normal, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And maybe just the people that you've worked with as of yet have it has been they are at peace in a sense, and
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
you know.
It's quite
So
busy
you
here. We get all types of cases here.
yeah.
And it's one of the things that I do appreciate about this funeral home because there's an opportunity to serve many different communities and many different cultures. So that was something I just heard that seemed a little awkward.
Wow.
And I've heard it's from that corner too. Somebody pointed out. So yeah, it's all good. It's good.
Huh. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
exciting.
Well, and it could just again be the heat. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, you never really know. I mean, unless something, but I'm
Yeah.
watching behind you.
Thank you. Yeah, keep looking for me.
So you sent me a photo that I wanted to pop up because you said there was a story with it.
Mm.
So I'm gonna bring that up. Um,
Oh, yeah, that's a tough. I'll try not to tear up a little bit.
okay.
So that's a picture of Dylan
Okay.
as my godson.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, he's not technically my godson. He's my daughter's god brother. There we go. Um, I just say godson because it's easier, and he was like a son to me. He still is like a son
Yeah.
to me. So they came and visited his family, and we drove to the opening of Mount St. Helens, and so that's the rim of Mount St. Helens in the central Washington and
Mm-hmm.
south central Washington. And if you look behind, you can see my left hand there with the watch on it. There's a ridge you can drive up to way back there. And the last time I saw him, uh, we had driven up to that ridge way back in the back and looked into the crater. And so I
Oh,
was really struggling saying goodbye to Dylan, and I had attempted the summit before in the snow and didn't make it, and that was years ago. And then this was about a year and a half ago, and in October, I think it was October, and I wanted to go see Dylan, or not see Dylan. I wanted to go bring Dylan up to the top of Mount St. Helens, and I did, and it was awesome. I'd like to say that. I brought the picture down with me. Hope nobody's watching, but I did leave a little memory of him up there on the rim. But the whole time I was going up and down, there was a single crow that followed me up and followed me down. It was with me for about 4 hours. And I thought
wow.
that was really interesting. I didn't see any other wildlife at all. That's all I saw.
Huh.
And
Oh,
it was very awkward. And I say awkward because it didn't seem natural to me. And I
yeah.
sat down on the rim and I brought a beer up because you got to have a summit beer. And I was sitting up there with my little microbrew beer and talking to Dylan, and this crow landed right next to me and started talking to me. And it's silent up there. It's hot
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
silent. Yeah, and it's like the surface of the moon. It feels very, very odd, just because you take a step forward and then you slip back. It's really, really dusty up there. So it was quite
Wow.
an experience. And then you hike down. You have to go about 4 miles through the woods to get back to your vehicle. And it's a good 8 to 12 hour round trip. It's just a time to reflect. And I went by myself, and I had my purple shirt on. That was Dylan's favorite color. So yeah, it was special. But that was a very odd thing. And I always tell families, that are struggling. I have a service tomorrow morning, and wife is gone too soon. And they'll say, Russ, I saw like a bird that landed, or I saw this or that. And I always tell people, look around, look up. When we lay your
Yeah.
mom to rest, look around and just take in what you see, because, it could just be nature, it could be a memory, it could be a mental photograph that they hold on to. But, I have, I was laying to rest a young man who was in a car accident. His whole family was there. And right as we were lowering his casket, a flock of geese flew right over and super
Oh,
loud. So,
yeah.
and that's just nature, but who knows, Dee Dee?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to know? Just because I can't explain it doesn't mean it's not a thing, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. I absolutely love your story. The fact that the crow stayed with you. I mean, they don't
Yeah.
do that. That's
No,
amazing.
no.
And it was
I
I feel like when we cross over, we have a way of communicating with the people who are in the moment. You were reaching out to him, taking him with you. So there's a
mm,
connection. We're all connected that way. And I feel like that was his way of being able to tell you I'm here, you know?
yeah, I think so. And how I look at it too is even if it wasn't, there's an energy about us, and we attract other
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
so, who know, I do think personally, I think that could have been him. Um, his father sees different birds that come to him, and he doesn't, there's no afterlife belief or anything with him, but now he's starting to wonder because he's starting to
Yeah.
see things,
Science.
and
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And science is what humans can explain, but humans, we're animals. we can't explain everything. As smart as some
Right.
of these people are, or however high they score on an IQ, they're brilliant. It doesn't mean we can explain everything. Einstein didn't know everything, and many
Right.
people take that for granted. They think, well, if I can't explain it, it didn't happen. Well, okay, so explain to me where the end of space is. Well, I can't.
Right.
Well, there you go. See, there's things that we can't
Exactly.
explain. Yeah,
Exactly. I love
yeah,
that. I'm going to use that.
yeah. It works. It
So,
shuts them up pretty quick.
yeah. So I feel like people really connect spiritually through dreaming.
Hmm.
And so I kind of have two questions for you. Do you have people that come to you and speak about dreams with their loved ones,
Yeah.
around the funeral time? And do you have any dreams about the people that you work with?
Um, my dreaming, I explored lucid dreaming and I kind of did it for a little bit and realized I don't want that in my life. It bothered me. It was too real and it
Yeah.
scared me a little bit. And so I don't explore that anymore. I do have people that will come in and say, she passed, and then I think she's been showing up every morning at 6 a.m. when I'm waking up. And a lot of people, I think a lot of us, when we come out of sleep, we are kind of in a half state of waking up. Our
Yeah.
mind and our physical body does not wake up at the same time. And
Right.
sometimes when your mind wakes up before your body, some people call that paralysis, which I suffered from sleep paralysis for 15 years.
Oh,
That
wow.
was a nightmare. That was scary.
Yeah.
I had some serious dreams during that. That was wild. And I went and got tested and all this stuff. And they said, no, we have nothing. It's just sleep paralysis. Stop, get through puberty, you'll be fine. Like 15
Wow.
years of puberty is not a thing. But but at least I hope not. But I do have people that come and they talk a little bit about, mom came to see me or my child came to see me and I haven't had anybody say it was weird or scary. Every single time they've said something, it was warm and loving. And I think that's the thing,
Yeah.
you know, um,
Yeah.
a sense of comfort, I think is what I'm looking for. And I've never had it, I'm very careful with how I talk to families. I'm there. Did you hear that?
I did.
There's a train that goes by and it scares me every time it goes by. There it
Oh.
is. It's just a train. Oh, yeah. Well, it goes right through the cemetery. It's wild. I rode it
Really?
once. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God.
It's just very bizarre. Um, I forgot what I was talking about now. That got me. Um, but I'm a funeral director to guide them through this, not to sit there. I don't give therapy. I'm not a counselor certified. I'm very careful. There's no I don't talk about the law. I don't talk about anything like that. I'm just there to guide them through and honoring their loved one because I
Right.
have to remember why I'm here. And also, there's liabilities and legalities to that. I mean, I don't want to be liable for telling somebody the wrong thing. And I have families that ask me things all the time. They want to know, well, should I do this with mom or should I do that, legally? And I'm like, well, I would talk to an attorney. That's all I say to them, because that's not my
Yeah.
job. My job's also not there to sit there and interpret dreams with them because I
Right.
don't think that's appropriate, but they will ask. I've had a lot.
Yeah.
Russ, do you ever have this here? Do you ever have that? So I'm very careful and I'll always explain, I've felt the warmth in this building. I've felt kindness, which is true. I've never felt anything else. I did at my
Yeah.
last place a lot, but here it's just warm and kind and loving. I think a lot of it has to do with the people I work with too. It's just good
Right.
people.
Yeah. Huh. So, I totally lost my train of thought. That was really beautiful. I don't know this. There's a cemetery in New York, and I don't remember what the cemetery was, but there was a woman who was visiting her family, and I guess it was something about the ground there on Long Island, and I'm from Long Island. I know it's surrounded by water, but it started to sink, and it was about dusk time, and she started to sink into the graves
Mm,
and then somebody else from the cemetery had to pull her out. But I wondered, had
mm.
you ever heard that story or anything crazy like that that happened like during a
No.
funeral or in the
I mean,
cemetery
yeah,
in general?
people fall in. I mean, you have to. A funeral director's there to make sure that people, follow the rules. When we're pallbearing, I always tell them, okay, I'm your air traffic controller, and I talk through and like, okay, we're gonna swing this way. And because people are like, oh, it's solemn, it's quiet, we shouldn't talk. Yeah, we should, because otherwise somebody's going to go down in there, you know? So I'm not concerned with that. I do it kindly and gently. There's a reason funeral director is called a funeral director. We have to
Right.
help people, and that's to avoid things like that, Dee Dee, people falling into graves or getting stuck or having to be pulled out. I haven't heard anything here. I actually have never really, mm, no, I really haven't heard. So, a casket is put into a vault, which is usually a cement block, or it can be you can spend tens of thousands of dollars on a really nice one that no one will ever see, if that's important to you, which people do. But, after a while, those are porous, and the vaults from like the 50s and 60s, they'll give out. So if somebody drives over one, their truck could go down into the grave. And I have seen that, not here, but I have seen that, at another place out where I used to be. I served a lot of mountain cemeteries in the middle of nowhere, with 100 plots or less. And I've seen that. I've seen trucks go and just sink,
Oh,
because of the state of the vaults or because they're
yeah.
just not careful. And who knows what happens when you disturb a grave? Who
Yeah.
knows? I
Yeah.
mean, there's that aspect to it too. So I don't know, but that's that one of the lady up in upstate New York. I've not heard that, but I can imagine the terror that she
Yeah.
felt.
Yeah.
She
I
was,
can't. I thought about that one for a while and I was like, what if you were like another person visiting the cemetery and you see a woman halfway in a grave reaching out, screaming that she's trying to get out? And I was like, what do
yeah,
you do?
you run, and then you talk about the zombie apocalypse.
Exactly.
That's
It'd
what
be
you think is about to
terrifying.
happen. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's wild. Oh, that's freaky. That is wild. I love that.
Yeah. I'll find the article and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, do. Back to the dreaming thing. You asked if I have dreams about decedents, people that I've helped. I
Yeah.
have had a couple. I don't know. I think it's just something working out of my subconscious. I've had some weird dreams though. About a month ago, I dreamed that I was in a room and I had all these people watching me, including Jackie Onassis, and we pulled out JFK, and I had to embalm him in front of all these people. And I know where that was coming from. It was an important person, and I was feeling like people were judging me and watching me, and
Yeah.
so I know where that came from.
Yeah.
But I've also, had some pretty graphic dreams, two or three graphic dreams. Two I can remember. One of them I pushed out because it involved one of my kids, so I got that out of my head. It's still kind of
Yeah.
there, but I can't see it anymore.
Right.
But then one with an extended family member. Uh, we had somebody come to us who had been walking on one of the major freeways and got run over 3 times. And so you can imagine what that does to the human body. And I did see some of it, not all of it. I don't go and look. I tell other people, this isn't show and tell. Unfortunately, there's going to be people in this profession where they, oh, I want to go see that, or I want to see that. And this isn't show and tell time. This isn't, go on YouTube or go to a surgery theater if you want to see something like that. This is a
Oh,
time to honor the dead.
yeah.
And so, but when you are in there looking for an ID or checking, you will see it. And so I've had that kind of creep into my dreams as well. I guess that comes from just an idea being planted in my head. But
Probably. Yeah.
again, I can't explain it though. I think I contacted you about that JFK thing, didn't I?
You did.
No.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
your explanation was really helpful to me because I was able to kind of think about why I was having that dream, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And I do
Because
appreciate
each
your help.
one resembles, I mean, generally, I mean, I believe that you can have dreams that foretell future and things like that sometimes, but most of them is just us working stuff out. And I would think that you would have a lot of interesting dreams just being in your line of work, just like, and even people, like I tell people to be careful of the content they look at, especially
Hmm.
before bed. So, like, speaking of that, do you have something? Like, you come home from work, eat dinner, relax. Like, do you have something where you just are able to kind of walk away from the day and almost like a ritual that helps you kind
Yeah.
of go peacefully to sleep?
I take a really hot shower at night. Um, it calms me down. Uh, I cook. I come home, and if dinner's not made, I love to cook. That helps me just appreciate where I'm feeling. My kids do tons of,
Yeah.
my kids are all in the theater and music. They're all running around doing stuff all the time. Um, it's hard because if I have a really difficult case, like I have a really, really, really hard one that's hitting me pretty hard right now. I'm in the middle of it. And what I'll do tonight when I go home is you know, I won't pour a glass of wine because I have to. I'll pour a glass of wine because I get to. And just sit and talk with my wife, and I don't discuss any details with her. She lost her brother, and so I don't want to, take her down
Yeah.
that road. She loves what I do. She loves that I can do it, but she doesn't need details. Um, if I can't sleep, I'll put on a Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings because I'll be asleep in 2 seconds. 'Cause I've seen them all 1,000 times. But that really is, I don't really have a ritual that I do. Sometimes I'll watch a show that my wife and my oldest, we love Top Chef and reality shows, Lego Masters and all that kind of stuff. So I'll kind of separate myself by spending time with
Right.
them and watching other reality lives. I think that's probably why I like
Right.
those so much. Come to think
Yeah.
of it, I never even thought about that. That's probably
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
enjoy those because I get to see people living still, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. Oh,
And on my
I love
way
that.
here, when I walked out of the funeral home and I walked through our care center, and there's 15 people laying there, and I say goodnight. I do, and I just
Yeah.
do it. And I think I do that so that I do that for me. I don't do that
Yeah.
for them because I don't believe they're there, but I do it for me. Although I did have an incident in the care center 2 weeks ago, it scared the Jesus out of me. I can tell you about that if you want, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's a way of just that's kind of my other ritual, just to call, just say goodnight, goodbye, and leave it at
Right.
work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I found since I've moved to a different funeral home, um, that I'm able to separate more, and I think it's because we have such a good team here that we support each other in really good ways. And there's always drama. There's drama in every workplace. We have ours,
Yeah.
but it seems to me that we all kind of get each other. We're all good with each other because we know where we are at.
Yeah.
I didn't have that before. It was a small funeral home. There were two of us that were funeral directors. I one was an intern, and I just passed my license exam, so I got licensed pretty quick. I did it in 13 months from becoming an intern, because you have to
Yeah.
have at least a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, I I think just having those little things that I do every night, good night. I say it in the
Yeah.
morning, good morning.
Yeah.
I'm not
That
scared to
kind of
be
is your
alone.
ritual.
It
Yeah.
is my
You've already,
ritual.
yeah.
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 Yeah,
So
and I
you said
don't,
something happened 2 weeks ago?
yeah, it is. I'm getting these weird cold shivers right now. I don't know why. Probably
Oh,
because I'm thinking about this, but it's such
yeah.
an interesting room. And the light just went down, and now all the windows are dark. So, hmm.
Oh,
Um, I was standing in our care center, and in our other room, our embalming room right next to us, there's a slider door that we keep shut when we're in the process of embalming. And I heard a bucket. I was the only one in the funeral home. I heard a bucket scrape across the floor, and I just stopped what I was doing. I think I was getting somebody dressed. No, I was taking handprints. I stopped what I was doing, and hello, and nothing, and just silent. And I really, truly do not believe I imagined it. I heard
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So, and I went back in to look and to see, all right, where's the visceral bucket? Oh, there it is. And I don't know
Huh.
if it was where it had been left last time or not, but it was very freaky because I saw the source of where it would have come from.
Right.
I didn't
And you
feel,
heard it. Yeah.
yeah, and I shouldn't say freaky. I guess I should say very interesting because I wasn't scared at all.
Right. Yeah.
I just talked and said hello,
Yeah.
or something like that. I used to
It
be
was
totally.
unexpected.
It was very unexpected. My last funeral home, I hated going in alone. I was so freaked out going in there at night if I had to. Here, I mean, look at me now. I'm sitting in this 100-year-old chapel in the middle of a cemetery by myself. Um, and it doesn't bother me at all. I'm very aware of my surroundings.
Yeah.
See, that's the heater. The heater just came on again. Now I'm freaking myself out. That one screamed like something screamed. Wow, that was weird. Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, cool.
Well, well, I mean, this is connected. I mean, this is connected to your workplace. So whatever the spirits are, they know
Mm.
you. So they're probably just like, oh, he's here doing this.
Well, and
So
and yeah, and I try to take care too. I try to show respect and
yeah.
you know,
Oh, I can
I'm
see
here
that.
to honor
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what happens is that in probably some of these funeral homes, it becomes a business and it's more about just like getting the paperwork done, getting things done. And it's less about remembering that this was a human
Uh,
being that had a life.
Upselling, making money, making money,
Yeah.
making money. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I'm happy to
So
say
that
it's not that
brings
way
me
here.
to a question that I had for you is that two questions. One is somebody, what should everybody do for their own deaths to kind of
Mm.
prepare so their family doesn't be burdened by something? And
Oh,
then the
yeah.
second one would be what should people know as a family member of someone who's deceased coming into this situation? Like, what
Mm.
should you know to do and not do to make it like a easier transition?
Well, I don't know if it's ever an easy transition only because you're losing someone, but I know what you're saying. An easier, like, it's not as stressful. Yeah.
Yep.
It really depends on the funeral home you go to. I would tell people definitely call a couple. Get a feeling for the funeral director when you talk to them. All funeral homes will have a 24/7. A lot of them have a call center, but it will get forwarded to a funeral director. So really get to know that funeral director if you can, um, because how the law works is, if somebody passes, it gets reported to the funeral home, and then the family member has to release their loved one, whether they're at the coroner's office or whether they're in a hospital or whether they're in a nursing or adult home. They have that facility has to call the funeral home to release them. A funeral home can't call and say, "Hey, do you have anybody for us?" Number one,
Yeah.
gross. Number
Yeah.
two, that happened for a long time, and that's why the Federal Trade Commission has really kicked in, and we have a lot of
Wow.
rules. We tell everybody our prices up front. Um, I think one of the best things you can do is plan ahead and you can actually pay for your funeral ahead of time. And when you do that, most things are locked in. There'll be a few things that are not locked in, such as the cost of death certificates and such. That's controlled by a state health department. But things that like buying a plot or paying for casket or paying for services. So let's say I did that for myself today and hopefully I'll be up for a while. But if I'm not, everything I pay today is guaranteed so that maybe in 30 years, um, it will be the same prices. It applies.
Yeah.
So you're saving a family
Okay.
and it's paid off and you can pay it off. Usually if you do it through a good insurance or a trust, you can do it for pretty cheap a month, like 50, $60 a month. So it's a gift
Oh,
to your family. It's a real gift to the
yeah.
family. And I'm not trying to sound like a salesman here, Dee Dee, because people watching this might be like, oh, here he goes. No, in all honesty, it's something you can do for your family. Uh, my
Yeah.
father, my mother wants to pre-need, and my father will not do it. Well, Rush, I've got great insurance and retirement. People don't think getting into that, you have to pay up front, and getting into a retirement takes a long time,
Yeah.
and getting into insurances, it can take a long time. So,
Yeah.
I love you, Dad, but geez, now granted, his son works here, so God forbid if something were to happen to him soon, we have ways of taking care of him for family. We do a
Yeah.
massive discount for us. But I would think doing a pre-need would be a very important thing. And you can't change. You're not locked in. Well, I said cremation, but now I'm changed. That's what a living will is for. So there's all sorts of things that are important. A lot of people think, well, I was mom's power of attorney and she's passed. So now, because I'm power of attorney, I can sign. This bothers me a lot. Power of attorney applies to when somebody is alive. Once they die, power of attorney is gone, unless they've written that into a clause. But a lot of people assume the law. They assume, oh, this will be easy because I've got this. Um, oh God, freaking train. I got this
I've got
executorship or
thunder
something.
going.
Oh, oh, I like that. I'm glad I don't, not right now. But that's something that people can do to help their family beforehand. I was in with this lady today, and I don't do the pre-needs. I'm a licensed funeral director. I do the at-needs, but we have pre-need licensed people, and the advisor couldn't find this casket. And I said, "Oh, I know that casket." So I went in and sat with them, and she wanted a bright purple casket, and I found it. And so she was
Oh,
able to pay today's prices for that purple casket, or actually set up a payment plan. She's gonna be paying maybe $50 a month. How great is that? And she'll get the
yeah.
casket you know. So
Yeah.
that's one thing you can do to help family before when somebody passes, um, and it's time and there isn't something set up. Like I said, calling a few funeral homes is important to do. You're not in the right state of mind, so you don't want to. Um,
Yeah.
see what they do for you. See how they treat you when you call them. If the first thing they do is, well, let me tell you the prices, blah blah blah, that's not the place for you most likely. If they ask,
Yeah.
tell me about your loved one. How are you doing? What can I do for you? Listen to those words and those key phrases, because once you do that, you'll find a place where you will probably be comforted. And some people say, I don't care. I just want a direct cremation and be done with it. And that's okay too. If
Yeah.
price point is number one important, then go for it. I mean, there's no judgment. That's your journey. But I think
Yeah.
that's one of the things to remember, is to ask around. Have a
That's
little
great
bit of
advice.
paperwork. If they're a
Yeah.
veteran, have that discharge paper ready, because most veterans associations, I've had to train or teach a bunch of my colleagues this. Most veteran associations for a county will give you money if you just apply for it. People don't know that, and that's something
Yeah.
that they're so
Huh.
there's, and if you want honor guard, and all that. So I guess just having all the proper paperwork with you too. But it's horrible, and I tell people this, it's so horrible that when somebody dies, you're all of a sudden, you have so much that you have to do. I guess it's a gift in that it's a distractor, but it's not a gift because now you're dealing with that too. So
Yeah.
that's why taking care of things beforehand is really a good thing to do, I think.
Yeah. No, I really like that. And I like the advice you gave because those are things that I wouldn't have thought about is because I would like someone would say the prices, that would be like my mindset. Well, how much is going to cost? Because it's a stressful thing and money. But really you'd want them to be tell me about your loved one. I love that because that's the bottom line. And like funerals, like there's cremation. Most people I know seem to want to be cremated.
Yeah, it's the way
Um,
the world is going now. Yeah.
is it? Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm a little freaked out by that, but I don't know why it matters. but
Well, Dee Dee, let me put it
so
this way. Are you freaked out by that, or are you freaked out being trapped somewhere forever?
well, that's what I couldn't
Think
decide when
about that. Yeah, and then you
I
got
think
one of two
about it.
options. Luckily, there's a few more options, green burials and such, but yeah, there's
Yeah,
not a whole lot of options. Yeah.
yeah. I do like the whole the being part of like a tree thing because you are
I've
literally.
got thoughts on that.
Do you? What are your thoughts on
I've-
that?
this whole human pod thing or urn underneath the tree, that's great. But what if number one, you move and that person gets left behind, or number two, you try to sell the house, you have to disclose that to the buyer, or number
Oh,
three, the tree dies. I mean,
yeah. Oh God.
you can't take the tree with you, most likely. So I'm not a huge fan of that. Weigh those things before you go and put yourself in a pod. I do think it's kind of cool. I mean, the concept is awesome, but
Right.
you got to look at all sides of things. The human composting thing is wicked. I went and visited a place, and because I was a director, or I'm a director, they let me go back and see the process and see the end
Yeah.
result. Really cool. I'd like to be composted. I really would.
Really. So I've heard
Yeah.
a little bit about that. So they're really doing that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's big here in the Pacific Northwest. I mean, we're all granola people up here anyway, but we're tree huggers. But yeah, no, we love that. A couple of them have secured land working with the local native tribes to rebuild some of the tribal reservation land that needs some conservation. And so they'll take leftovers and it's a horrible word. They'll take the compost that wasn't taken by family. They'll put them on the land. Um, but I was walking into this place and getting a tour behind the scenes, and a huge pile of dirt, like a load from a pickup truck. And I went, "Whoa, is that to show people what size it's going to be?" And they turn to me and go, "No, that's a person." I went, "What? That's a
Wow.
person. Literally just a pile of beautiful composted dirt. Pretty cool." And
Wow.
so you can drive your pickup truck. They have a forklift, or not a forklift. Well, I don't know. yeah, the tractor trailer, and they'll dump it in the back of the truck, and off you go with grandma, to do what you will with it. So it's actually
Huh.
pretty cool. Yeah, it's actually
That
pretty
is
cool.
cool. Well, we
Yeah,
start from the earth and we go back to the earth, and that's
I like it.
literally,
Takes
yeah,
30 to
I like that
45
too.
days. Yeah, yeah. And then there's
Huh.
a whole aquamation thing, and people say that's a lot better for the earth, and I don't necessarily
Yeah.
agree with that because the amount of water it takes to break your body down. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I can imagine it's a lot of water. I've seen a tank. It's a lot of water, and it's just jet streamed over you and breaking you down. So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, we're already here taking up space. Once you're
Yeah.
born, you're already having an impact on the earth.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you want to have that impact after you're here, after your physical body's gone? What kind of impact do you want to have? You
Right.
know?
What are people storing themselves for? Yeah.
hmm Yeah, yeah. And no judgment on cremation and no judgment on burial. I think it's all beautiful. I've exhumed bodies. I've seen what happens to a body.
Hmm.
It's pretty wild to see that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
you have to keep in mind, there's no wrong answer. There's just a different answer. And not everyone's going to have the same opinion.
Yeah, well, that's true. I read somewhere on the internet, so I don't know, but that they said it takes about 2 weeks for all the cells in your body to die. Have you heard that? Because, like, how long is
Yeah.
usually, like, after someone passes away, how long is the process before they're actually in wherever
Yeah.
they're going to end up, buried, cremated?
It really depends. If we have a rush case, where I work now, we do, and it's usually a 5-day turnaround, which is really fast, really fast. Um, it can be months. I've got somebody who's going to be with us for a few months because their family is AWOL because they won't pay. So we have to wait.
Oh,
Now, if I were in Texas, I would only have to wait, I think, 10 days. But here, we just passed a law that's going to get it down to 30 days. But where we're at, it's 90 days.
oh my
90
God.
days. So I've seen things, Dee Dee. Seen some
Yeah.
things, smelled some stuff. Um, but
Wow.
yeah, it's usually the process can go pretty quick. It also depends on the doctor signing the cause of death. And so I'll wait a couple days. I actually have a team that does it for me, but my old place, I had to do that. I would give them 3 days and then I'd call and say, hey, I got a family waiting. Could you please sign the death certificate? We
Yeah.
get it taken care of. Yeah. And I've done, it's usually not a problem. Usually doctors and hospitals and nurse practitioners work really well with funeral homes,
Yeah.
especially in a larger urban area, for sure. But again, it depends, and sometimes people will have grandma sent to our facility and realize, oh no, she's supposed to be in another facility, and we will not charge the family. We'll actually, and I think most funeral homes do that because they understand in the time of loss, we're here to help people.
Yeah.
And so most good funeral homes will be able to take that person and say, you know what, this is in the funeral home, they'll do a transfer, and that's okay. That's fine. And they just have a different preference.
Yeah.
But that's not very often. So that's why I give that figure out. I think probably about that where we're at. But again, I'm in a very highly trafficked urban area right now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So on the I'm going to bring this one up too on the
Yeah.
your Instagram. Like, this
Yeah.
was, I think this was today's post or this was this week. Um
Yeah.
the so I noticed that I've seen different posts where people sometimes want the hand, so that the hand casted, let me make that straight, so that they can, like, hold the hand and
Yeah.
have that
Yeah.
moment and stuff. And so I guess if the family requests it, then there's nothing wrong with doing that. Like, that's a service. I didn't even know that was a service that you could get.
Well, so it's not. Um,
Okay.
my other funeral directors are like, knock it off, Russ.
Yeah.
I just do it. I do it I've done maybe five. I did one 2 hours ago. I was doing another one.
Oh.
It's for somebody who works here's family member. So of course I'm going to do it. Um, but uh, yeah, it's very difficult, and I won't go into it because I don't want to freak people out that are watching this, but I have to do certain things to get the person in the position and the right. So if you walked in and saw me doing it, it would scare the out of you. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's important, and I think especially when somebody loses a young life, they may want to hold their hand a little bit. Obviously, it's a plaster, it's a casting, so it's not you're not holding their hand, but you at least have
Right.
that sense of that touch memory, which I think is an important thing, and that's why we do fingerprints, and that's why sometimes locks of hair, sometimes I'll do
Yeah.
handprints. Yeah, I did a butt print on a baby. That was
Oh,
odd and weird, but it was sweet, but it was
yeah.
so hard. It was so hard. But we did it because they wanted, they wanted to
Yeah.
have the little butt print there on a plate. They could.
Yeah.
That's how they remember all their kids they did it with. So they wanted to have with this one, and it was sweet and really difficult. And I never thought I'd be okay with babies, and I do okay with them now. I'm not sure what flipped in my mind, but now I can handle it. It's a growth process. But I
Yeah.
just think the hand thing is really important. I don't offer it. It's not something most funeral homes offer because number one, the kits are not cheap. I need to get reimbursed, by the way, but they're not cheap. But it's just a service, and it gets me out of my office, gets me out of my desk, where I can go and
Yeah.
just have some quiet time with a person,
Yeah.
And sometimes I've got a little playlist that I put on. It's mostly jazz. Actually, it's funny. I got to tell you this quick thing. When I first started embalming, I created a playlist. It's my embalming playlist.
Oh.
And it's most of the music is from the meth cooking scenes in Breaking Bad, which is sounds weird, but it's really good music. And jazz and Vince Guaraldi, who's the guy that did all the Snoopy and Charlie Brown piano music, and just
Yeah.
relaxing music because I'm here doing this to a human body, and I want to music is healing for me. So yeah,
Yeah.
it
It gives you company and
gives
rhythm
me
or whatever.
company. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of like share, a story or any advice or anything at all?
I think there's a stigma to funeral directing, and I think a lot of people there is that aspect of this profession where you get, I don't want to be judgy here, and I'm not judging anybody that might watch this, that might be in funeral directing, that might be this way. I'm not judging you. However, when you see these funeral directors, and some of them, a lot of us have different styles. I always wear colors. I rarely wear black. I have a hot pink Barbie shirt that I wear sometimes, and I just try to bring light
Yeah.
and plus I love color, and my favorite color is pink. But there's a lot of stigma to it, like, oh, morticians, and I haven't really used that word, although it's on my handle, that, gothy and tattooed and piercings and darkness and blah, and listening to Bauhaus and Depeche Mode and well,
Okay.
that's my favorite band actually. But the dark gothy type. Um, I don't think that's really a thing that all my colleagues, I don't really see that. There's one colleague that is a bit, but you know, there's nothing dark or weird or gross about what we do. You're gonna die someday, Dee Dee, and I'm gonna die someday. And I hope it's not for a long time. But if it is, I want to know that I'm gonna be taken care of by somebody who cares for my family and my loved ones, even more than they care for me, because they're the ones that
Yeah.
are still there, you know. And I think that when people think about funeral directing, I highly suggest people consider it. It's a rewarding career, not necessarily financially rewarding. It can be, um, but I didn't go into it for that. You know, I went into it to help because I lost my brother-in-law and then I lost my daughter's godbrother. That's why I'm here. That's why I want to be part of this. I have family members that won't talk about it. I have family members that are incredibly interested. My brothers I thought would be really interested and they'd want nothing to do with it. And my sister, who I thought would be like, oh no, she's like, tell me all the details. I want to know everything,
Huh.
and I would
Yeah.
never have seen it. So you don't know how somebody's going to respond to it. So
Yeah.
I would just say to people, be open-minded. And when you meet somebody who says they're a funeral director, they're probably not a weird person. They're probably an
Yeah.
okay person, and maybe I'm weird, so I can't say that. But just
No,
think
you
about
seem very grounded.
Yeah, really, I'm a good actor too. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I do feel grounded, but there's times where I don't feel grounded.
Yeah.
And I think being open and willing and listening, and I try to listen more than I talk at families. So really, when it comes time for somebody out there to deal with a loss, find somebody that'll listen rather than talk at you. Make sure they're listening to you. I think that's the most important thing. And not all funeral homes are haunted. I mean, I don't know. It's another stigma that goes along with it. Ooh, they're in a funeral home, so there's going to be spirits. I don't know. I tend
Yeah.
to think that people mostly will linger where they passed away. That's more experiences I've had. They'll
Yeah.
linger there at that spot. I don't, I've been
Right.
to 3 medical examiner facilities and I've never felt anything. I mean, it's weird there and it smells funny and it's a bit freaky. If they're at a medical examiner, there's usually I mean, it's not an autopsy is most likely happening, so there may be some
Yeah.
mystery or some could have been foul
Yeah.
play or something, or death by suicide or something like that. I don't know. I just think it's there's all these stigmas, but like I said, an open mind is a very important thing when you talk to someone. I've had people reach out to me on my profile on Instagram too, and I don't have a Facebook and I don't have a TikTok and I don't have a Snapchat, and people said, "Well, you started TikTok." I don't know. I don't want
I
to.
know.
I literally, I'm not in this for followers. I don't even have that many, but I think the ones I do have, a lot of them will reach out. I've made some really, really good friends, which has been a
Yeah.
beautiful blessing, and I've loved it. And they'll reach out to me and ask me questions, and then it's just a really great community, you know. And honestly, the
Yeah.
people I talk to the most on there are death dualists, people that help others transition from
Yeah.
life to death. And man, I've met some awesome people, just selfless, beautiful souls that just want to help people. And just about every single one has had a tragedy in their lives, and that's why they're there. That's why they're
Yeah.
there, you know.
Yeah.
So, and I have to remember that in this job, I'm here because I lost someone. Most of my colleagues are here because they lost someone. Uh, there's good people in the industry. You just got to look for them, I think.
That's good, solid advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on and
Yeah,
talking
thanks for
about
having
this
me. Have
because
fun. Yeah.
it's a topic that I don't have a lot of experience with, and it does seem like it's a little taboo. People are afraid to
Mhm.
talk about it, and even like people, the paranormal, everybody's in the paranormal and stuff, but I don't find a lot of people that get to this kind of thing, and this is something that touches all of us at one point or another.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
I'm
it
really
is.
grateful that
We're
you
not
shared all
escaping
this
it.
information.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
not escaping it. Yeah. And I see all these tragic passings and you can plan for tomorrow, that's great, but you got to live for today. You really have to live for today because you don't know. I have to go drive on the freeway on the way home. Who knows?
Right. Yeah,
Live for
you
today.
just you just don't know. I mean, you could be sitting in your house and a plane could crash into it. You just never know what's
You
going to
never know.
happen. That's so true.
Great, Didi. I live under a small municipal airport flight path. Now I'm going to think about that tonight.
So do
Sounds
I.
horrible. A little Cessna's flying over me every 20 minutes.
Yes. We have a behind me is a airport where they do skydiving. So they're
Oh,
flying
cool.
constantly and then people are jumping out. We actually one time had hot air balloons were going a lot from the
Oh,
airport and they were coming
beautiful.
over and they would land over here. And one day we were looking out the window and the kids were little and the hot air balloon seemed like it was just right up there. We're like looking at it, you could see the people, and all of a sudden we saw somebody fall out or jump out, and we're just all standing there going,
Oh,
I said, is that a person that just fell out?
oh
And my husband's
no.
like, yeah. And I'm like, what's happening? And then the parachute came out. But
Oh, jeez.
I
Thank
literally
goodness.
was like, what am I saying? The two little kids, it's like, oh my God.
Oh, no. No, that's
So
horrible.
that's my airport.
Yikes. Well, yeah, mine's not quite like that I know of. Yeah.
So I've posted a link below so that you can find his Instagram account. And thank you for watching. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.